Hey Jim, hope you're doing well. A couple of days ago, you mentioned making some videos to help us talk about how the different parts of this thing are coming together, particularly the walls and how they intersect with the interiors of the halls and ceilings and things like that. So this is the first in what I hope is many of these kinds of videos. Um, I think I finally got over my self-consciousness about hearing myself being recorded. So here we go. Um, so right now I'm focusing on deck 17 and 16. If we take a look at that's the floor of deck 17, bringing the stairs going down to deck 18, and the blueprint for deck 17. And just for reference, also I've got the secondary hall exterior. I've got to cut it in half so we can take a look at the cross section there. And if we want to go inside and look at the whole thing, we can do that too. For now, I'm going to hide that. Um, so one of the things that I've been doing is improving my assets by way of making them easier to use, and also adding some tools that help me out. So in my early models, let me unblank. Let me unblank some walls here. So you see this big long wall here. It's got a tapered end to it, and that's of course so that it doesn't poke out of the side of the secondary hull. If I suppress that trim there, that's my normal wall with a vertical end. But the problem is by the time I get the bottom edge all the way out to the where it needs to be, and then I take a look at the secondary hull there, that corner of course is poking right out. And if I can pull the wall back so that corner doesn't poke out, but then that leaves a hole down at the bottom. So to solve that, I created a tool, and this shows a big block, much bigger than it needs to be, but it does the trick. So what this is doing is I'm subtracting this volume from the end of that wall, and I can manipulate that. So I can extend it and pull it back. I can raise it up and down. I can change the angle of it. So what that looks like when we make that go away is just like this. And I can, again, when I change the angle here, it's just making the cut in real time for that. So we get the walls going all the way up to the inside of the secondary hull. And you can kind of see that orange line there is embedded within the thickness of the hull, but it does not protrude to the outside. So that's one improvement I've made. That's not a really big complicated thing. I'm going to hide most of that. One of the questions I had, so I've got these conduits running up the warp nacelles, and all coming into the main engineering there. Now this Jeffries tube, I originally had lined this up pretty much with this wall that's close to the number 7 here. Um, so let me pull that back and I'll show you the issue I had. So if I line that up where I envisioned that you wanted that wall to be, and that makes sense because in that scene, I believe that's Charlie X coming in here, and I think he's watching some people work in this area, and that's all one continuous wall there. But you see the issue here, I'm assuming that the Jeffries tubes are about 45 degrees, and it seems to match what I see on TV and also aligns with the angle of the support pylons for the engine nacelles. But in order to make that line up, and you might have seen this in the time-lapse video that I made, there's a part in there where I adjust this thing to be in line with the other warp conduits. So if I change that offset to line that up, it's roughly right there. And that offsets that wall back a ways. So I don't, kind of wondering what to do here. I don't like the idea of making a horizontal section of Jeffries tube that leads into that. If I move this wall back in line with it, that might be okay. But if we look at this superstructure here, and this is what I've envisioned for what you've drawn, and it seems to line up pretty well in terms of, you know, starting at just the edge of the secondary hull here, and then by the time it gets cut off, it stops practically at this wall, and then continues on, of course. So let me know what you think about that geometry. This wall here, if I bring this to line it up with this wall, that's an offset of about 423. You can see that structure cutting right through that wall there. So not quite sure what to do in this area. We could bring this structure forward a bit towards the forward part of the ship. See if I can get that right about there. But if we wanted to put a door here that Charlie went through to get into this area, that still presents kind of a headbanger right there as you walk through that area. So let me know your thoughts on that. And we can work through that together. I've got the same structure back here that starts on deck 16, I believe. You didn't have any image indicating that that starts on the deck below, so I just trimmed that off to start on deck 16 and do a similar thing up the top. And because of the fact that the secondary hull is not a perfect cylinder, I can adjust these things. I've got scaling factors that I can make them fat and skinny and tall and short and just about everything in between. that was my first question on the Jeffries tube. Um, let's bring in some more of engineering now. I'm really a big fan of these stairs going down into deck 18. I'm still working out the railings. I think I've got too many railings there. I think I just want one central one here, and then the two others. And I don't think I need the vertical posts and the horizontal rails on the sides, because I imagine they affix that handrail directly to the wall. So if we look at the main engineering room, so I've done a couple of things here. I like the idea of getting this EMM up to the level of deck 16, and that's where it is right now. So if we look at the deck 16 blueprints, not everything lines up exactly now, but it's pretty close. But that gets it up right there. That makes this ladder quite tall. Well, no taller really than any other two-level ladder. So it's just seeing it by itself like that makes it look really tall and skinny. I need to bring that back a little bit. And similar one over here, although I'm not sure. I guess that ladder, I guess, leads up into this the circuit breaker area. So yeah, I can definitely duplicate that and stick that over there. So the nice thing about raising that EMM up is that it gives room underneath for this engineering workstation. So anytime I saw this rectangle here, roughly about that size and proportions with a chair, I'm assuming there's a workstation here similar to similar to the one where Riley was sitting at, where he got knocked out in Conscience of the King. So if that EMM were at its same level as it is in the stage 9 set, it would be down low quite a bit, and it just wouldn't be enough head clearance for that. One slightly awkward thing is this door opening up directly into the back of these big units here. One thing I had to do, and I had to do this on the primary hull too, on deck 7, I believe, is the size of these that I had best estimated was bigger than what we see here. I think these are scaled down to about 80% of what I had originally built them at and how they fit into stage 9. So that's how big those are at full size. But you know, just punching in a number here that gets them down to size that aligns with your blueprints. Okay, what else have we got going on here? Okay, this area. So this is kind of exciting, and I'm kind of exploring this right now. Where on the port side, where we're raising the EMM up to the level of deck 16. I'm not sure if it was your intention to have the level of this upper engineering area be at that same height, the level of deck 16. So I've put in some tools where I can raise or lower that as I want. If I put a 0 in there, this is the stage 9 elevation of that whole area. But the more I think about it, the more I really like the idea of taking that section all the way up to the next deck level. What was the number I had in there? 68. That's 68 inches of elevation there. Takes it up to the level of deck 16. There's the blueprints for deck 16 right there. Now I'd add to this ladder. I wouldn't delete it. I want to keep it. And I want to make it parametric so it can be adjusted just like everything else. That I can say, okay, it's got X number of steps, it's so wide, it's so tall, and things like that. Right now, I already have that functionality in the railings. So that's just kind of a side note, but I can extend and retract the left and right railings. I can change the number of balusters in each of those railings. So I want to do something similar to the steps here and make these components a little more flexible so that we can play with these kinds of ideas here. But like I said, the more I think about it, the more I really like this upper area being high up. And it just makes everything on the other side of that make a lot more sense. So right now I had this entire section. Let me lower that down again. So this entire section I had had the thickness going all the way back to here. So that represents how thick that had to be for this upper area to have this back wall. And I just carried that straight down here, leaving a whole lot of useless space underneath there. So by raising that up, I would extend this floor up by the same amount, 68 inches. And I would make this probably the standard wall thickness and have a standard deck thickness in there for that floor. And that then opens up this area to allow me to put in what you have here, which is a doorway into a room leading to presumably another engineering workstation right here. So that's kind of exciting. So I'll be working on that a bit. And as I go through this, I wonder too what to do with these areas like this hallway here. There's the door that leads to the Jeffries tube, but then we have a little kind of a cul-de-sac there. It'd be interesting if we could figure out what to do with those kind of areas too. I'm also working on my wall assets. You see these slots only go about halfway up these walls. That's because all of my walls were built on the assumption that everything was going to be 10 feet tall maximum. And then I started working on engineering more. I had worked on engineering before, of course, in different iterations of this, but it's in this iteration that I thought I need to really make sure those wall assets have an adjustable height. And so I will do that, and those slots will extend all the way up to the top. I also want to put in the capability of having some horizontal slots that we see in that aft wall of engineering so that we can make sure that they have that detail in there. I want to talk about the ceiling. Before we get to the ceiling, though, talk a little bit more about these kinds of parametric assets that I keep talking about. So this is the, I don't know what I call it, the warp core module, the mixing chamber, I think is what I call it in my file. It's got this grill on the front, of course. Now, this used to be a fairly static model. I built it up, and it is what it is. I couldn't do anything with it at all, really. Um, so I changed that where I can now change some parameters. I'm going to turn on rendering here. And what that allows me to do is change some values so that I can have anywhere from a minimum of, say, one chamber or one module to 2, 3, 4, 5 is what we saw on the show. And these are not foreshortened like they had to do on the TV show to make them go into the distance more than they did. This is actual same geometry, just repeated over a distance. And if ever we have a need, or there's some ship out there that has more than 5 of these modules, we can keep that number increasing for about as long as we want. I've also got programmable lighting in here so that we can change um, the color of this stuff if we wanted like a blue lighting with green down at the bottom or red or whatever. We can do that. So again, that's all in the service of giving potential users of these assets the tools so that they can customize these however they want, while still maintaining the overall look and feel of Star Trek. I'm not liking that purple and blue though, so going back to something a little more traditional here. Okay, enough of that. So the ceiling beams here. Now I was surprised, building this out, and I just said, okay, I'm going to go to my stage 9 set that I've got in the same file. I'm going to blank this out a second. Open up stage 9 here. And there it is. So it's pretty much, I pulled in the same geometry. So this is what I modeled everything off of. Was the stage 9 blueprints. And that's pretty much the height of the ceiling beams. And this, I think this matches fairly closely with what we see on TV. But it's bring it into your blueprints, and I'm not complaining by any means here. I think it's interesting and exciting what you're doing here. So we bring it into to your blueprints. And the first thing I noticed, of course, is that the height of the potential raising of the upper area of that engineering wall there. And then bringing in the ceiling. Your engineering room is a lot deeper fore and aft than what was shown on the TV show. So I want to move these back So they about line up with that aft wall there. So that's how they would look. So that may make this aft wall taller than 2 decks high. It's 2 decks plus a smidge. If we look at where deck 15 is, here we go. So these are all of these decks are set at the correct distance from each other. They're 147 inches distance between each one of them. So that's 120 inches plus 27 for the deck thickness. So these would come in just a little bit higher than the floor of deck 15, but I think that's okay because from the inside, they would appear that they're at about the same height relative to this upper area of engineering as we see on the stage 9 set. And then I think we could make a good argument that these are tied somehow into the superstructure here. And reading your notes in our chat, in our Facebook chat about these lines, horizontal in this view, but they're running fore and aft and tapering in towards the back. And also, I think you said they got thinner as we went to the rear. I'm wondering, are these cross? I call them slats because there's not much to them, not much substance to them. Are these kind of what you're representing there, or are you talking about something, some other kind of beam entirely that that I haven't modeled yet? So that's another thing I was wondering about. Let's see here. I think the rest of it, Jim, I think I'll just kind of take a tour around here. I'm going to blank out deck 15. This might be a little janky because these aren't exactly the smoothest controls that I have here to work with. I'm going to turn on the computers, all the other stuff. The crew quarters are pretty cut and dried there. No real questions there except for these black boxes. What did you call those? Okay, so there's no sign of that on deck 18. And I'm sticking with the higher numbers counting from the bridge on down. So rather than deck 9 secondary hull, I'm calling these deck 17, deck 18. So if we look at deck 16, we see those structures here. And I'm wondering, I'm trying to remember deck 15. Yes, so we see a block on deck 18, 2 on 17, or single block on 17, 2 on 16, 3 on 15. And I'm sure you've got, yeah, structural bulkheads. So this is another thing I'm wondering what your vision for that is, what that cross section might look like as I'm trying to imagine what that is. I don't think we want anything to get down into the crew quarters. But from what I can tell, you've modeled or you've drawn these bulkheads overlapping the crew quarters. So I'm guessing that you're representing the total I guess lateral width of those things from floor to ceiling. So if we assume on the floor they're this size here, and by the time you get up to the ceiling of deck 17, they've curved in a bit. Uh, that might be one thing. So I don't know, for example, if you're looking at something similar to what I call the airframe back here, or something different. So I'd appreciate your thoughts on that as well. Is one of my favorite things to do in this tool is go into walking mode and just look around and walk around and get a first person perspective of this. There's an interesting moire effect as we see all these fine horizontal lines creating an interference pattern with the resolution of the screen. Unfortunately, I don't have doors that automatically open and close yet, but we can pop into these rooms and get a sense for the size of the bathrooms. I'm going to switch to camera mode here, so that'll give us a little bit more of a field of view. Oof, sorry. Of course, there's a wall at the end of this area, so we wouldn't. It would be kind of cool seeing clear through the engineering like that, but we can't do that, of course. So one thing I want to show you back behind this door is the big computer room, and I'm going to unhide the secondary hall. That's no good. That's one thing when you get when you get into inside of the interior of the ship here, and you turn on the exterior hull. There's no exterior light sources that get in. So I'm going back to material preview mode here. Going through this door. This is a computer bank. Now, when I see these big, thick blue lines here, I just unimaginatively put in an array of these console Type 7 computers. Probably should face them the other way, because as you're coming in from that door, you would want them facing you. I go into the back of this room here. Oop. Oh, now we find ourselves on the outside of the ship. It's easy to clip through a wall or a deck, and once you've clipped through it, you have to turn it off and then come back in. Okay, so this should give you an idea of how close we are here to these computers, and what the curvature of that the hull looks like. So I think we could easily eliminate a row of these computers if we wanted to give more of a sense of space in this area. And I'm not sure if like this kind of feature, you can see here the wall, and then your purple lines representing where the ceiling is, I think line up pretty well. But then we have this odd shaped end wall here that I'm not sure would be of use to anybody. I don't have the windows in this version of my secondary hull yet, so it'd be interesting to see if there's a window right there. Coming in here, there's our stairs down to deck 18. And is that a bad? That's a bad door. That door should not be there. Let's fix that right now. Oh, there is a door on that wall. I just have it in the wrong place. Okay, so that's not so bad. That's not as much of a dead end as I thought it might be then. We'll get that door to where it needs to be. Okay, so there's our door where it should be. So I think this is the area that you're working on that is represented in different ways in different episodes. So right now I'm just kind of laying in what I see on the blueprints, and we can have different versions of it. So there's the engineering workstation right there. I left this door open here just to highlight the fact that this is going into main engineering, and somebody walking in here would come right up against the back of this commercial clothes dryer or whatever the heck it is, some kind of engineering unit. This ladder is now extending up to full decks to get to that EMM up there. So that's a regular deck height underneath that EMM. I think that's a really positive change. And then we're back here. So that I really like this. I like one of the comments I hear, the people taking the Ticonderoga tour or visiting some of the other set tours. They get into engineering and it feels smaller than they remember it being. And I'm sure it's accurate to stage 9, but one of the things I like about this area is that in Star Trek, they only have so much money, you only have so much space. They use different tricks like force perspective on the warp engineering here to make things seem bigger than they are. And I think this is an opportunity to realize those sets if they didn't have the limitations that they had. So I'm gonna work on this engineering ladder here to make it extend the full 147 inches. Go up to that next deck. And I'm going to continue working on the rest of engineering here as well. So lots of neat stuff. So have a look at this. I hope this is kind of what you had in mind. If you have some other specific areas you'd like me to highlight, let me know. Or if you see some things in here as I was whizzing by that I didn't call out and and you noticed, let me know also. Um, what else? What else? I don't think there's anything else right now, Jim. Um, anyway, I hope this finds you well. I'm going to post this up on YouTube. It'll be private link, and I'll just send that link to you. Nobody else will have that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. You take care, and talk to you soon. Bye.